Now let's get into it. Another coup in Russia. Damn, the end of Putin's regime. That's tough. You going through it?
Russia
I
is
don't really care
testing
either
their
way.
most effective units for their political loyalty and watching for the roots of betrayal. Welcome
Yeah.
to our Ukraine update for August 11th,
Ooh.
2023.
Russian documents. Inside Ukraine, inside Russia. International news. Frontline news. Front lines and interesting extras.
Now let's get started on that Russian document. Here's the photograph of the original document as provided to Igor Sushko through a third party. Good afternoon. I am sending you a photo of a cipher to show everyone how afraid Gerasimov and Shoigu are of the paratroopers and are making them into enemies, the source said. Considering the recent purges of generals and high-level officials both in the Kremlin and in the military, it's no secret that someone is really rattled. The aborted Wagner coup was a real really rattled.
That's funny.
The aborted Wagner coup was a real wake-up call.
I was like,
and nearly worked. If just a couple key individuals had fallen on the Wagner side instead, we could be talking about President Yevgeny Prigozhin right now. And the lack of response from key military and security services? Yes, someone really has reason to be worried. Right now, people in Russia that ask too many questions tend to no longer be people, especially in Russia. So the source continues, where I got the photo, do not ask. The photo was taken the same day it arrived. It was printed and put in a folder for the commander. The cipher was sent directly to the army groupings from the general staff from Moscow. What does it say? Well, let's read this. And for the moment, think in terms of a Russian senior officer as you receive this in your morning orders. In connection with the recorded case.
Hey, you want to get into real estate but don't even know where to start or how to start? You want to invest in real estate but literally do not.
Cases of formation of negative socio-political views and attitudes among the personnel of airborne troops, involvement in activities aimed at discrediting the armed forces, reduction of controllability of units and military discipline, disruption of the performance of ordered tasks. Assess moral, political, and psychological state of the personnel of military units and subdivisions of airborne troops in the zone of the special military operation. In short, bring out the political officers, secretly check the loyalties of your troops, watch for dissent, and especially watch for people who might be interested in overthrowing their political leaders. The document continues in this vein, but what should really worry any Russian who reads this document, this is targeted at the VDV. The airborne forces, the elite troops of the Russian Federation.
Oh, no,
These
you don't
are
want
the
that.
soldiers that are the best of Russia, the most loyal, the most capable, the best equipped, and their senior
If the best and most loyal Russian soldiers are thinking of betraying, what about everybody else down below who ain't so loyal?
Officers are being watched the closest. Take special control over the movements of commanders outside the area of combat missions of their formations and military units.
Don't leave
this
your area.
may be particularly tailored to snaring Colonel General Teplinsky, who recently got onto the naughty list with Russian leadership for accidentally letting slip the casualty rates for the VDV during the special military operation in his recent video on VDV Day. We'll let Igor Sushko's source give us the scoop, though. Now, all the activities specified in the encryption are being carried out. Political officers and FSB officers are working inside the VDV units. Officers from the airborne troops are constantly on edge. Morale among the airborne troops is, to put it mildly, not very good.
Of course.
There are a lot of kind words in the address of Gerasimov and Shoigu. Or maybe, just maybe, Russia's senior field commanders are looking at Niger right now as a potential example. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. The world is a big place, and your life can be affected by some person you never knew existed halfway around the world. Keep up on the latest geopolitical news in just 5 minutes a day by signing up for Global Recap. Global Recap is our daily newsletter that shows up in your inbox with all the most important news from around the world. It takes about 5 minutes to read and helps you to be more informed about the world you live in. Sign up now at globalrecaps.com or check out the link in the description. President Zelensky has advised they're going to fire every single one of their military commissars. That would be all the military recruitment officers they have in the country. Reason being a tremendous amount of corruption. There are already 112 criminal proceedings against officials and 33 more they just have suspicions on. So
Damn.
the plan is they're going to dismiss all the regional military committees, and they're going to replace them with veterans, specifically veterans who are no longer able to go to the front lines, but are still loyal and capable and have an understanding of what is needed on the front. So these could be soldiers who have lost their health, lost their limbs, but still have their dignity and still want to work. They're not cynics, and they're people that can be trusted with this system. The widespread dismissal of all the officers of this type should indicate there is widespread corruption in this system. They're basically taking the system down to the very bare minimum and rebuilding it from the bottom up, hopefully without the corruption. From the Kyiv Independent, Ukraine's healthcare system has suffered over 1,000 attacks over the course of the war. On average, the Ukrainian healthcare system suffered 2 attacks per day since the start of the invasion. And as of mid-July, 148 medical workers were killed and 106 wounded. The report also recorded 414 strikes that damaged or destroyed hospitals, 79 attacks against ambulances, 57 attacks against children.
Bro, the amount of war crimes they're going to face when they lose this war is going to be insane, bro. When this war is over, most likely with them losing, I think, the amount of war crimes they're going to have to, it's crazy, bro. Crazy, bro. Even admitted to that group doing war crimes in other states or in other countries. That's crazy.
Children's hospitals and 40 attacks against maternity wards. The report also mentions that even Ukrainian combat medics are targeted by Russian forces on the battlefield. Seems like the Russians are very serious about taking care of any medical gear, equipment, or facilities that the Ukrainians may have. Ukraine's Energoatom has reported that there was a significant violation of the integrity of the third steam generator located in the containment of the unit, causing primary to secondary water leak. There is no radiological release into the environment, however. This could be a deliberate attempt to sabotage the equipment of the reactor complex.
Planes.
Hey, yo, bro. What game is this?
Each world has its own master.
Can I be a master?
Adventurers raise their torches aloft.
Okay,
And it definitely violates the
taking too long.
conditions under which the plant is supposed to be even manned or operated. Due to the damage to Reactor 4, they're moving Reactor 6 into a hot shutdown state, while they're moving Reactor 4 into a cold state for repair and maintenance. Residents of the occupied area of Kherson could be subjected to abuse, the denial of medical treatment and vital medical care, and humanitarian aid if they don't get a Russian passport. This report is from a specific village, Zakarey, and this policy was made public by the occupiers themselves, specifically through the administration of Alexander Dudka. He stated, first of all, this applies to insulin, which have already experienced for themselves how to be a citizen of another country. The same will apply to the issuance of humanitarian aid. Anyone who's expressed a negative opinion may be subjected to deportation, which of course in this case would mean deportation into Russia and potentially a penal colony. War creates additional opportunities for criminal activities. The SBU of Ukraine exposed some drug dealers in Zaporizhia who are bringing in wholesale quantities of ecstasy under the guise of sweets and household
They're like everybody
items.
focus
These
on the
drug
war. Let's
dealers
bring in
sold
some
about
drugs.
30 million hryvnias of drugs over the course of several months.
Damn.
And they actually set up a drug laboratory in the garage of one of the barges that they used to bring in the material. They face up to 12 years in prison.
12?
Ukraine's SBU also detained a trader who was
I
on the payroll
felt like
of the
there was
FSB,
gonna be more, but
who
it's
was
not as
busily
much
correcting
as I
airstrikes
thought.
in Odessa. The individual was going around the city after air attacks, taking video and sending the information off to the FSB. The individual was a local of Odessa and had pro-Russian views. She decided she was going to make a little extra money on the side by cooperating with the Russians. And 35 million hryvnias doesn't buy what it used to. They contracted a company for new uniforms and ended up getting basically junk. Bad quality uniforms that were not up to the rigors of actually being used for the servicemen of the armed forces of Ukraine. The delivered uniforms do not meet the technical conditions and cannot be used for the intended purposes. There's enough stuff blowing up around Moscow these days that keeping track of them all is getting kind of
It's more
difficult.
daily
We'll
attacks.
start off with Ukraine issuing a warning to Moscow. Expect more daily attacks. After another drone attack on Russia's capital this morning, Ukrainian military intelligence told the Kyiv Post there is a certain justice to how Moscow's residents are feeling. Now here's a picture of the drone arriving over Moscow. Then we start seeing the results. This appears to have been intercepted and shot down. The explosion is not particularly large compared to many of the others. The mayor said that a drone was intercepted over Moscow. The drone debris fell in the area of Karamishevskaya embankment in the city's western part, which seems to match the pictures we've already shown. And this one appears to be that same one as well. A couple saw the drone coming in and were scared it was almost going to reach us.
That's
A
crazy.
nearby rowing championship caught the explosion on their feed. Now this appears to be a separate explosion and a much larger one at that. This was a warehouse on Severnaya Street in Odintsovo, Moscow region. And this appears to be the same one. It's reportedly a military warehouse outside of Moscow. No report on how this one caught fire. But don't worry, Moscow cops are now walking around with anti-drone guns. Seems like not that long ago, the Muscovites were certain that Ukraine couldn't touch their capital city. Here's the damage to the Olengorsky Gornyak, the Russian landing ship that was hit with a sea drone just the other day. It finally got into dry dock and they're getting the chance to analyze the damage. Now, as I understand, these landing ships, not only were they built in Poland originally, but there's been several others of the class that have had to be scrapped because they didn't have any parts for them. They might be able to make this ship float again, but the question is, will they be able to make it into a warship again? And video of the damage to the SIG. This is the oil tanker that was hit by a drone. You can see the damage right at the waterline, and it goes straight into the engine room. There's been no report on exactly how bad this damage is. It's still floating. It might be able to be repaired. But as I recall, the SIG is an older tanker. It may not be worth repairing. All depends on, well, how bad it is. Remember the explosion just the other day on
I'm
Sergei
speechless.
Posad? That would be the
I'm just
ammunition
listening like y'all.
plant that they claimed was only making binoculars. Well, a crater at the site that was caused when the truck outside exploded was being filled in at the direction of one of the investigators with other debris on the site. Another investigator showed up, realized what was happening, and began to swear at the rescuers who were filling the pit. They were then directed to dig the hole back out so they could actually analyze what had happened. On a slightly sadder note, 172 fragments of bodies have been found on the territory of that same exact plant. There's still 8 people missing, and a total of 80 people were injured in the explosion. The damage
Fragments of
report
body is crazy.
includes 397 apartments,
RIP.
20 private houses, and 5 infrastructure facilities, plus 2 schools and a college. 184 vehicles were also damaged. They did not report on the amount or level of the damage. Some of these might be just minor, which we saw plenty of videos of, and others might be destroyed beyond.
Dr. Drew and my wife Susan here, we want to show you something.
You've probably seen this guy all over your feed.
No, I
claiming
haven't.
beyond use. In Russia, the military is being tried for not preventing Ukraine's surprise attack on the territory of the Russian Federation. This charge stems from the shelling of an ammunition depot in the Belgorod region that was shelled without warning. 7 people were killed and 15 units of military equipment worth tens of millions of rubles were destroyed. 2 officers face up to 10 years in prison.
Damn.
Lieutenant Colonel Anatoly Bondarev and Major Dmitry Dmitrikov, and at least one of them has been arrested and sent to a pre-trial detention center. From Intermarium 24, here is a can of Russian rations delivered to the front. Now, the
What?
can says it's
What
braised
ration?
beef, according to the translation. However, it was just full of canned water. The suspicion that
Oh,
when
wow.
it was ordered to be delivered, they thought it would never be used, so they just stuck the money in their pocket and sold them canned water.
Oh, that's
and out
crazy.
of nowhere, a car with Russian government plates is burning in downtown Moscow. The car magically exploded for no apparent reason, as things tend to do in Russia, according to Jason J. Smart. And now over
It's
to
that hot out.
international news. Exiled opponents of Lukashenko met in Poland and proposed a new Belarus passport.
Yo, do you think the Earth's temperature is changing because of the war in Russia and how they keep using missiles and whatnot? So they're basically making the Earth hotter. I wonder. I tried to look up something about it last time on stream, but nothing happened. I was like, why is there all these fires going on? Like there was a big fire in Hawaii and shit, and I was like, How did the fire start, or why is there fire? That was nothing, so I just kept it going. I thought Business Basics would have a video on it, but he didn't, so
That's to counter legislation introduced by Lukashenko's regime that
maybe
would
if he
allow
does later,
Belarus to
I'll watch
revoke
it.
the citizenships of Belarusians living abroad accused of so-called extremist activity and harming national interests. They're currently designing the new document and preparing it for EU approval, as this is the first time this type of thing has happened. It's going to be a new process, a difficult one, and it's interesting to see if the EU will actually take it up. The Ministry of Defense's intelligence update from the UK, of course, talks about the recent exercises that the Belarusians did right on the border with Poland. On the 7th of August, 2023, the Belarusian Ministry of Defense announced that the 6th Separate Guards Mechanized Brigade would conduct an exercise in the Grodno area of northwestern Belarus, near the Polish and Lithuanian borders. The ministry said that the exercise intended to incorporate lessons learned by the Russian military in Ukraine. There is a realistic possibility that the Belarusian troops will be joined by a small number of Wagner Group advisors acting in a training role. These specific exercises are highly likely part of the Belarusian military's routine training cycle. 6 SGMB's home garrison is in Grodno, and it is unlikely that the formation is currently deployed with the enablers it would need to make it combat ready. However, Russia is almost certainly keen to promote Belarusian forces as posturing against NATO. In this case, the Belarusians are trying to say, we're ready to operate against NATO at any time. Might not be the best message for them, but that appears to be the message they're going for. Now, this is single source, and this source is very much biased towards the Russian side. That said, what they're reporting is interesting. President of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, said that he had instructed Prime Minister Roman Golovchenko to contact the Polish side in order to resume dialogue. Maybe now that the posturing is done, the exercises are done, the press releases have been written, maybe he's trying to get back on the more calm side of things for a little while, knowing he's got Russia on one side and NATO entirely on the other. That said, I have no insights into Lukashenko's thinking, but maybe that's what it is. The Pentagon plans to increase 155mm ammunition production to 80,000 per month next year. Currently, it's around 24,000. The Ukrainian military is currently using about 8,000 shells per day, which would mean they need about 240,000 rounds to be able to continue that pace. Polish President Andrzej Duda states that the Ukrainians don't have enough weapons to change the balance of the war, and he points to the progress of the current counteroffensive as evidence of that fact. The Netherlands handed over 6 more mobile medical support complexes to border guards. These complexes are used to help with medical and evacuation support and are built according to NATO standards. A weekly protest was held in front of the Russian consulate in New York. The action is called Navalny Thursday. British commandos are training 900 Ukrainian Marines to conduct coastal raids and amphibious operations. Really interesting. We've seen a lot of the Ukrainians at work with the coastal raid part of it, at least across the Dnipro River. But amphibious operation could mean a lot more, and 900 Marines is nothing to sneeze at, especially in a war where small unit actions appear to be.
In 2024, April 8th, there will be a total eclipse crossing all North America.
This once-in-a-lifetime event start in Mexico, then move into the U.S., and then make its way journey north into parts of Canada.
Wow!
I want to go see this.
Millions of people will gather to watch the event of a lifetime. Imagine you there. How will you immortalize this event?
What time is it?
Here are your options. Cheap paper glasses. Terrible style, but great for watching. Not so great to make memories. Your smartphone. Trust me, your pictures will definitely look like this. Not so epic, isn't it? A big telescope that you will buy for the occasion? Great, but do not forget to read the full manual to set it up correctly. And yeah, keep some space in your garage to gather dust.
Bro, you made me lose interest, bro. Ain't no fucking way. There's a fucking beautiful eclipse coming and you're talking about bullshit.
Sanctions. This would be for their workspace services, which includes corporate mail, Google Docs, Drive, and more. The blocking began on August 10th. We've seen several reports about Taurus missiles being sent over to Ukraine. Well, both the Chancellery and the German Ministry of Defense state, hey, we know nothing about that. They certainly don't know anything about a quick or already made decision in favor of that missile being sent. Currently, no decision is being prepared. Russia has requested a meeting of the UN Security Council on the supply of weapons to Ukraine. No telling what Russia thinks they're going to accomplish with that, but we'll be watching. The Washington Post reports that F-16 training for Ukrainian pilots are facing delays. They expect that the first pilots would take at least 6 months to train, and as training still hasn't begun and it's August, it may not be available until early next summer. The U.S. has encouraged European allies to take on the training for Ukrainian pilots, but the latest information is that the U.S. may in fact approve the training to be done on U.S. soil. Ukraine's ambassador to the United States declares, providing Ukraine with air defense is a key priority for Washington. There are many nuances, she said, the question of production, the availability of current systems, and the willingness of other countries to provide us with systems that are already in service. Going to be a lot of negotiating going on to make this all happen. We'll see what comes out in the end. And here's what's going on the front lines. From War Gonzo, this is a Russian source. The Ukrainians have advanced in Robotny along a 6-kilometer wide front, with, according to them, only a minor amount of depth. Here's the lines near Robotna as of yesterday, and today you can see it's a pretty significant little gain. Here's a picture of a Ukrainian soldier posing with the Robotna sign. Indicates that they have managed to make some progress right up to the edge of Robotna. The remainder of their report is that the lines have remained relatively static, though they do state that the Russians have had some success north of Kupiansk. They do not, however, provide any details, and their maps don't show any change of control. Rozhny has been very busy over the last day or so, and it looks like the Ukrainians have gained quite a bit of territory, or at least they're denying the Russians access to it. This shows that the Ukrainians are definitely deep inside the village itself and putting a fight up for the Russians to have to counter. Ukraine control map confirms the Ukrainian advance near Robotna, but has not seen any evidence for the Kupiansk advance. A Ukrainian group of 30 fighters raided a Russian column on the left bank of the Kherson region, 8 kilometers from Kakhovka, somewhere near the highway. I don't have enough details on this exact location, but this is yet another cross-river raid that appears to be really getting the Russians up in knots. Each one of these raids causes even more operational problems for the Russians and potentially causes them to wonder if there's going to be an actual invasion this route. I don't know for sure, but the Ukrainians certainly are making it a lot of trouble for the Russians. Supernova Plus is confirming the raid across the Dnipro River and the attack on a convoy, but has no additional details, at least not ones that they're willing to share. The Russians also attempted to strike an airfield in the Ivano-Frankivsk region. Apparently it was a military airfield, and this is apparently where the pilots who are supposed to be training for the F-16 are based at. No report on the actual airfield itself, however, an outbuilding for a residence does seem to have been destroyed. And now for some interesting odds and ends. Demining teams of the units of the Support Forces Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine continue to clear the deoccupied territories of Kharkiv, Kherson, and Mykolaiv regions from explosive objects. That's quite the string of explosive objects he's got there. It's going to be a lot of time to destroy all of the unexploded ordnance, all the deliberate mines, and everything else. They put out a report just the other day that listed a huge number of already destroyed objects and a fairly large amount of territory that had been cleared, except for one minor detail. Even though it's a large amount that was cleared, it's tiny compared to the amount of territory that needs to be cleared. Russian mobilized soldiers in Kherson Oblast are battered and mistreated and recorded a video appeal. Basically, no ammo, no training, no logistics, and being ordered to do things that they are not equipped to do. The main reason I'm showing this picture is because this officer states that he is in command of this platoon. A platoon is usually between 21 and 28 people, and he says these are all that's left. Just for fun, a Ukrainian bucktail is making its way through a sunflower field. Barely be able to see with all those sunflower seeds flying into your face, that's for sure. And we'll end off with this video of Ukrainian troops who have come to West Point. Apparently they're here for medical reasons, and the West Point cadets recognized the Ukrainians and offered them a round of applause as welcome. And that's your Ukraine update for today. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm always on the lookout for good, positive videos from both sides of the conflict to add in at this very end here, just to show there are humans out there on the battlefield. You know what to do with that like button if you appreciate the video. You have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you on the next video.
You know, very good video. I liked it. Very informative. Oh, I'm going to try to watch more of his videos so I don't get like 30 videos behind like I currently am. Well, I was all the way down here, but yeah. Like, subscribe. See you guys later. Hope you have a good day or night. And bye. Let me know if you guys think Russia is making the planet hotter and it's causing all the fires everywhere. I don't know. But yeah, bye.